Well, hey, everybody, it's Pastor Martin. Grateful that you've joined me today for Let's Talk Ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin. And it is Wednesday. I'm always excited about talking ministry every Wednesday as we come on to really talk ministry and deal with ministry. So grateful that you've joined me on today. Well, I'm going to be sharing in just a little bit, and we're going to be sharing with you. And I pray and trust that you can hear me well. I want to make sure that sound and everything is good today. And if you can hear me, just please let me know by saying that I can hear you and that you can really hear the sound on today. And we're just, again, grateful that we are here on this Wednesday to talk ministry. Of course, we are today we are streaming to several different platforms. We're streaming to Facebook, YouTube. Also, we're streaming to dlmartin.org. If you have any problems on any of these platforms, you can pick us up there on dlmartin.org. Today, we're streaming directly to our website on today. I'm excited again to have you with me. Thank you for joining me. I see you. I see those that are joining. I see April. I see Brother Jerry and different ones, and then those that are watching us on YouTube. Today, let me first start off by saying that this is going to be a very interesting thing today we want to share with you and encourage those of you that are pastors and leaders as we talk about it. I also see Pastor Hudson that's came on, and we're grateful for him. Let me give a shout out for some that I want to do real quickly. Let me do this, and I wanted to give a shout out on this book. I said that I would, and I'm going to. Here's a young pastor that is writing a book. Its book is due to come out in. It's coming out in November 2019. Young Preachers Climb the Mountain. And I saw his advertisement about his book. And so I wanted to give a shout out to him today and encourage those of you to go and probably get a hold to the book and to receive the book when it comes out. He's on Facebook, and I think it's going to be on Amazon and some different places. So please go and get the book from him. I don't know if he's pre-ordering, but he's online, so he can say if he is. And I want you to get that book from him. He's dealing with some of the subject matters we've been dealing with for the last 2 years, and we've been dealing with a couple of subject matters, and he's been dealing with them. And so I just wanted to make sure that we talked about it so you can and get his book and be a part of what is going on. And so I want you to by all means do that, and I'm grateful to have him online with us today. So please get his book. He's dealing with some things with family and how to deal with family and balance family and ministry. He's dealing with some how to honor the fathers, and we've dealt with this on this platform. So please do that with him and get and be a part of that as he's doing that. Well, let's get started today as we're talking ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin. And today the subject is how to avoid distractions and interruptions in ministry. And so we want to deal with those things today. How to avoid distractions and interruptions in ministry. Those of you that are in ministry, you have to understand that today is very important. It's vital. And I pray again, if y'all can hear me, let me know. Just say I can hear you. Want to make sure that you can hear me today. It's very important for us to understand the importance of things when it comes to ministry. And so we want to deal with this on how to avoid distractions and interruptions. And understand first, let's be realistic. And I want to deal with it from a realistic standpoint that distractions will come in ministry. It's just like distractions come in life. They also come in ministry. And no one is above distractions coming. They do come, even as it relates to ministry. Then interruptions happen, even when it relates to ministry. And so I want us to understand that all of these things take place, all of these things happen, distractions in the natural, distractions happen. You see distractions happen all the time. Even in the natural, you can be distracted while driving, you can be distracted just walking. A lot of things can distract you from what you're going to do. You can go to the store and go in to get one thing and then get distracted. And all the time you went to get something, and because you were distracted, you end up getting something, forgetting everything that you went in originally to get. And so you have those distractions that happen just in life, in the natural, in things happening, in things going on. You have these type of distractions. Then you have interruptions where things come in and maybe put a pause in life and interrupt your life, where you are dealing with some things where things are put on shift, or things are put on hold, or you're not getting those things that you want to get, and there's an interruption that happens. And so we have to understand that. And so as we deal with that and understand that we have these things going on, so distractions will come. They're natural. Interruptions will come. But today I want to focus on a few points to share with you and how to avoid distractions in ministry, how to avoid interruptions. How do you do that? How do you avoid distractions? How do you avoid that? Pastor Hudson says, thank you so much. There's no pre-order, but they'll be available, and you can order it off Amazon. So make sure that you go get his book, and especially those of you that are young preachers that are in ministry, and even if you're old, to get a book anyway. We all help each other by things that we share, and so I know it'll be a blessing for you to get it. All right, let's plunge right into this. Number one, we know distractions are going to come, but let me tell you the number one thing, how to avoid distractions and interruptions. And that is, you have to know your calling or your assignment. If you don't know your calling, if you don't know your assignment, many times you get distracted, and your ministry and things even in church get interrupted, because if you don't know your calling and you are not sure about your assignment, then what you do is you start just sort of, as they say, tiptoeing through life, trying to figure out what should I do, how should I do, and how is this going to turn out? And so you end up just going through and not really getting to the place that you should be, because the one thing that we must know is we must know our calling. You must know what you're called to do. You can't look at others and think about their calling. You've got to know what you are called to do. I've got to know what I'm called to do. It must be a calling that we must know what we're called to do. I see you, Elder Clark. We must know, Elder Bullock, we must know our calling. What do you mean? If you don't know your calling, if you are just sort of trying to figure out, am I an evangelist? Am I a pastor? Am I an apostle? Am I a teacher? Then you're going to be distracted. If you don't know your assignment, what he's assigned you to do, then you're going to be distracted. It is just inevitable that you're going to be distracted. Something's going to happen, and you're not going to be and do and be where you need to be. So you'll be distracted in those areas. You're going to be very distracted. You got to know your calling. You've got to know your assignment. Your assignment, my assignment. Everyone does not have the same assignment. And it works the same way when you're on a job. If you are worrying about and doing somebody else's assignment and don't know yours, then you're going to fail in the area that you've been assigned. So know your calling. You got to know, just because you're a preacher, it may not mean you're a pastor. Just because you a pastor may not mean you're an evangelist. Just because you're an evangelist may not mean you're a prophet. You've got to know your calling. I see you, Bishop Coswell. You've got to know your calling. Know your calling. That's the first thing. So you can avoid distractions and interruptions, is knowing your calling and knowing your assignment. The number two, and I'm not going to be long today, but number two is you have to stay focused on what you should be doing. And that's very important because a lot of times where we miss out on things is we fail to focus on what we should be doing. And I want to tell you that that's so important to focus on what you should be doing, not anybody else. You got to know what you should be doing. And what we got to focus on that, and we've got to know that. It's important for us to get that. Focus on what you should be doing, what I should be doing. And that's going to work out better for us when we are focused. Give me just a minute. I'm doing a few quick maintenance things here just to make sure that we get this out all right. There we go. And just to make sure, I see those of you that are joining me on YouTube. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you. Thank you. I see, amen, Sister Moore. Thank you so much. Just understand that we've got to stay focused on what we are supposed to be doing. Again, what we are supposed to be doing. Sometimes we are focused on everybody else's stuff. This is how we get distracted in ministry and distracted because what we end up doing is we end up focusing on someone down the street, or we look at somebody else's thing that they're doing. And so we believe that while we're watching them and we think we're getting pointers or whatever, but many times we're losing our focus on our assignment. Every one of us have an assignment in a certain place. It's not assigned to other places. So we're so focused on other things that you can lose your focus. And one thing about focus, when you lose focus and you lose that edge, because now you're so focused on another church. You're focused on another ministry. You're focused on what they're doing. So now you've got a distraction. And so the Lord can't really deal with you about what you should be doing because you're distracted by what you're looking at someone else do. So we've got to stay focused. We've got to know that I must stay focused in spite of what's going on. I must focus. Everyone say that with me. I've got to focus. It's important that we focus. And I want to get that to you because a lot of times I found out if I lose focus on doing something, and even if it's not ministry, just focus, there's some things I can't multitask on. There's some things I can't focus on. I don't like to, for instance, I don't like to talk and eat at the same time. What do you mean? I don't like to talk on the phone and eat at the same time. My food don't taste as good when I do that. It throws me off when I'm eating and trying to focus at the same time. You talking about getting thrown off. I just get thrown off. So I got to call you back because I want to enjoy this food. There's some other things that I just cannot do and focus. And most of us have to admit, if we're doing ministry, you cannot focus when you're paying attention to everyone else's stuff and everyone else's ministry. You can't do it. So you got to learn to focus on what God has called you to do. Hey, Sister Mays, you got to focus on what God has called you to do. So it's important for us to focus there. Stay focused. Now, here's another thing, and I told you I'm just going through these quickly. Number 3, when it comes to distractions in ministry and how to avoid them, you've got to stop looking on the other side of the fence. Now, I want you to get that because that's one of the things that gets us thrown off is we always looking on the other side of the fence trying to see what somebody else is doing. There's a reason that fences are put up. There's a reason they put high fences up because they don't want you to see in. But we're so busy climbing the fence, trying to see what somebody else is doing at Mount Nebo, at Mount Tayabotai, that we're trying to see what they're doing, that we are so engulfed into them that we can't stay and do what we're supposed to do because we're looking on the other side of the fence. And when you look on it, the grass looks very green, looks good. And you saying, I need to do what they're doing so I can have the impact that they're having. But the question I have to ask you when you're looking on the other side of the fence and being distracted, are they really having the impact you think they're having? Are they really doing the thing you really think they're doing? Because you just seen it from a distance over the fence. In order for you to know what's really going on, you've got to get in there, be a part of that to see what's really going on. And a lot of us, that's where we are messing up at, because we are looking on the other side. I've seen some times that I've watched other people and seen them do stuff, and it just don't work for ministry. This works in a lot of ways. Watch this. You can be looking on the other side of the fence and looking at what's going on there, and then you go to do it and it don't work. Why? Because you didn't know all that was involved in that. There's more involved than what's on the surface or what looks like the picture. Bishop Carswell is on here, and he had a prayer thing that he did every year, and he would bring in several different pastors and ministers, and most of us would pray for our nation, pray for our world. They would tell us prior to it what to pray for, and we would pray. And it was a big event. He would have it at his church. He had about 30, 40 pastors that would come together from all denominations, and they would pray and pray, and they had those that would moderate and call those up. But now understand that just didn't happen. Someone could look at that and say, oh, I'm going to try that. But that just didn't happen. That took a lot of work and a lot of focus and a lot of planning. And sometimes we're so busy looking over at somebody else's stuff that we forget to take care of our stuff. And you've got to do a little bit better in looking at your side and stop looking at over the fence. Over the fence mentality, over the fence things will get you in trouble. Sometimes you've got to be the pace setter. You've got to be original. Not saying you can't borrow anything from anybody else. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you've got to go and do some things that are original and do some things that will be where you will be setting the stage for what God has called you to do. Did you not know that today, because we're looking on the other side of the fence, we are basically duplicating ministry? And I don't believe that it is the will of God for us to duplicate and get distracted by duplicating ministry. And what do you mean duplicating ministry, Pastor Martin? We're doing what everyone else is doing. We're talking the same stuff everyone else is talking. But if God has assigned you, go back to assignment. If he's assigned you to a unique assignment, to something that's nothing that anyone else is doing, if he's assigned you to that, then what you've got to learn to do is go and do what he's assigned you to do, because what you may be doing may be unique. It may reach people that others may not reach because of the way you do it. Sometimes and sometimes we fail because we keep looking on that other side of the fence, trying our best to do what everyone else is doing. And so I want to encourage you, let's stop always looking on the other side of the fence. Let's stay on our side. Sometimes there's a reason that God has put us in different places, given us different talents, given us different abilities. He's done that for a reason. He's did it for a reason, and that is for us to be different, because he's got us reaching all other people, and other people are being reached. And so when you're unique, when you have something unique about you, don't get upset, and don't try to duplicate or try to be like the other person. I know the Bible said, mark the perfect man, but at the end of that man is peace. He said, mark him. He didn't say you to duplicate him or steal their identity and become them. Every one of us should want to be something and on the other side of what we're doing so we can avoid. So stop always looking at what someone else is doing. You may be unique. I've talked to pastors, and some called me this week, and I had one particular pastor call me. He may be on here. I won't call his name. And he was asking me about TV and doing some things for TV and stuff. And so I was telling him about TV, because I used to do TV here in the city, and did a nationwide broadcast. And so I know about a little bit about TV. And so we were talking about it, and I was sharing with him some of the ups of TV and some of the downs of TV, the pros and cons. And he said, I thank you. You've answered my question. Because sometimes we look at others that are doing it, and sometimes we don't know if it's really working, if it's not working. We don't know what it's doing. We just sort of seem to believe that if I do it, because if I do what they're doing, it's going to work for me. It may not work for you or I in the area we're in. Follow me on this. That's why we gain always, because it may not work in the area we're in. What they're doing may be working in that area they're in. That's like some things work in certain states, but they don't work in all states. Some things work in certain churches, but they don't work in all churches. So you can't get distracted, because, a lot of us, we've done a lot of things. We've experimented with a lot of things that people told us that would work, and what we thought were working for others, we've experimented with. What do you mean? Well, we've experimented with early morning services. Some people still have them, where they have 8 a.m. and then 11 a.m. Some of us experimented with that. I did it for a while, but it didn't work for me. So I have 10 a.m. That works for me. But now that's not to say it won't work for somebody else. But if I'm looking on the other side of the fence always, and it looks green over there, and I want to try it, I want to do it, I may be putting myself in a place that I'm working harder, but I'm not working smarter. Are you following me? I'm working harder, but I'm not working smarter. And I know somebody need to say amen to that, put that in, because sometimes we got to work smarter and not always harder. Sometimes we're working hard to get something where if we just work smarter, we can get it done. So we've got to use some wisdom even in how we're doing that. So stop looking on the other side of the fence. All right, number 4, moving on. Another way to avoid distractions and especially interruptions is don't let interruptions stop you from doing ministry. Now, understand, when I say interruptions, there's a difference between sometime a distraction and an interruption, because you can have distractions and still not be interrupted. You're just distracted from doing what you need to be doing. You're just distracted from doing and flowing in things. You're not focused on the thing you need to be focused on. So you're distracted in that area. But now when there's an interruption, that means there's a pause sometimes in what you're doing. There is a delay. There is a shutdown almost, or a temporary halt to what you're doing. And when you experience interruptions, you got to understand that you can't stop doing ministry because you experience interruptions, because you still got to do ministry, whether you're doing it at church, whether you go out and do ministry in other ways. You can't allow yourself not to do ministry because you've got interruptions. In other words, when I think of it, you see me here doing this. I've had interruptions in ministry as far as it relates to some things. But now when you see me participating here and doing lives here, I'm still doing ministry, and nothing interrupts ministry. Because if I'm doing ministry, I've got to learn that there's more than one sect of ministry. There's more than one avenue of ministry. Ministry is not just preaching. Ministry is not just being in the pulpit. There's other areas of ministry that we can do that will avoid interruptions. And so we keep doing ministry. We keep doing this. Like years ago, I never forget, we were in Greensboro, North Carolina. My uncle was having his camp meeting. And when we were having this camp meeting, Bishop Ronald Brown was preaching that night, and a storm came through, and we were at Powerhouse. The late Bishop Covington was alive. It was his church, and we were there. And I never forget that while we were there, in the middle of the message, the lights went out. I mean, just completely went out. And so they opened the back door. It was a big church. They opened the back door so some light could come in from from wherever, and then they had people that had some lights, and they put some lights up. And my uncle song starts singing, and he sung for maybe 10 minutes, and the lights didn't come on. But the preacher continued. He got back up and continued to preach in the dark. They put some candles or lights right by him, and he continued to minister and continued to preach even with the lights out. And we heard him. My tape player was going. I still got that cassette tape to this day. My tape player was going, and we received some good preaching even in the dark. And about maybe after he started doing that, about 10 to 15 minutes preaching in the dark, the lights popped on, and he was able to resume with power preaching as far as the lights were concerned. So what I'm saying to you is, though you have interruptions, though you have something that is sort of a pushback, it doesn't mean you've got to stop doing ministry. A lot of us, when we have interruptions, we shut everything down and we don't do anything else. We don't do ministry. We just shut it down, waiting for it to come back up. That's why they have. That's why I've got our electrician. We call him Uncle Dutch. That stays not too far from me. And Uncle Dutch always says to me, "You need a generator." He says, if my lights go out in the neighborhood, my whole house gonna light up, because he has a generator in his house. And he's been after me for years to get a generator in the house. So just in case something goes down, just in case there's an interruption in power, then everything will go back up. And so that's what we have to understand. You need to understand that to avoid interruptions, you can't stop doing ministry even though interruptions have come. You got to keep doing ministry. You got to keep on doing ministry. And I know many of you can say amen to this. You've had some interruptions, and sometimes we stop doing ministry. We stopped doing ministry. About 10 years ago, of course, 10 years ago, I was at that time president of evangelism for Church of God in Christ. And in 2009, Bishop Blake appointed someone else, and I knew I had a lot going in me, and so ministry, the evangelist ministry and other ministry and talking about ministry was something that I knew God had given me. And so for a minute, that was an interruption, because now you don't have that particular platform. What are you going to do? And the Lord put it in my spirit to do this. And then one of my friends called me and said, you know what? You need to do some videos and stuff, because you got a lot to offer. And so that was the key to avoiding interruptions, to keep doing ministry. Find a way to keep doing what you're supposed to do, and you will avoid the interruptions. The distraction is different, but the interruption, now the distraction, you can keep going in a lot of cases, but the interruption, if you're not careful, interruption can completely shut you down. Interruption can completely shut you down for a period of time. And that's why you have to know how to deal with interruptions, deal with it a different way. And so you've got to deal with that. Number 5, and I'm just about done. I see you. Thank you so much for joining. I see you. Pastor Buckley, I see you. Pastor Livingston, I see Bishop Derek Hutchins Sr. God bless you, Bishop. Listen, so here's another thing. Here's how another thing you avoid interruptions. Now watch this. This is going to be good. Always, this is especially for pastors and for those that got people working for you and working in ministry with you. Always train and prepare others to do the same job, just in case there's an interruption in ministry. Now, this, when you think about this, what I mean by that is you always got to train others. You just don't let one person do everything. You got to train others that will be able to do stuff, because things can happen. People can leave ministry, or they could get sick, or people can pass, and anything can happen. And when you have not trained others to do things, then what you're doing can be interrupted. What you're doing can be interrupted if you don't train others to do it. You should always train. I saw Brother Jerry Smith on here. He's a person that does my media when we're at church and sound. And sometimes Brother Jerry and his wife, she's a business administrator, but sometimes they have to go out of town, and they'll tell me ahead of time, Pastor, we'll be out next Sunday. We won't be here. We'll be going to do this or do that, or we're going on vacation. So what I did is I had him to train someone else. I had him to train at least two people on how to do it. Plus, I know how to do it. I had him train them how to set the cameras up, how to get everything set for our live stream, how to get it set for our recording, our services on Sunday morning. And so they do that. So when he's out, we're not handicapped. We're not bothered by the interruption of him not being there. If his wife is not there, we've got another young lady that knows how to go in and do the financial part and the financial structure and to go in and see what we're doing that day. So there won't be any interruptions or anything that happens. So I'm saying to you that we've got to do better when it comes to dealing with interruptions and dealing with these things. So you got to train somebody else to do it. Just don't rely on one person to do everything. If you got a choir director, you need more than one. If you got a musician, you may need more than one musician. You may need someone else that can fill in or play if the main musician is not there, if the main drummer is not there, or if the main praise and worship leader is not there. You may need somebody else. You may need somebody else. You got to train to avoid interruptions, because if someone moves, then that's an interruption. That could shut you down if nobody else knows how to do it. If someone is running late for ministry that Sunday, no one knows how to turn the sound on. That's an interruption. You got a problem. So you got to train. You got to make sure that someone else knows how to do this. That's very important. I hope you get that. That's very important. You got to know that somebody else knows how to do this, because if you don't, it will cause interruption in your ministry, in your work. It'll cause an interruption because no one else knows how to do that. Somebody else should know how to flip the switch, turn the sound on. Somebody should know. And let me say to you, especially as a pastor, and I know we're busy doing stuff, and I know we've got big churches and small churches and all, but every one of us, even as pastors, should know how to do things that others are doing. Even though we got them doing it, we should know how to do it just in case. At my church, I know how to do it just in case. I know how to put the camera up, set it up for streaming, for recording. I know how to turn the sound on. I know how to operate the sound. I know where the TV light switch is. I know if even in the finance office, I know I know how to put the checks through the printer. I know how to write them. I know how to sign them. I know all that. I know how to get to the account to make sure, in case somebody's not there, what needs to be done. I know how to make the deposit. I know how to do all that. Now, there are others that do it, but I'm just saying to you, if you're going to have where you're not interrupted, you need to know those things so you'll have them, so you'll be able to put those things in place. And so I say to you, let's work on that in doing that, and so you won't have interruptions in what you're trying to do. So remember that. Always train or prepare others to do the same thing that someone else is doing. Always prepare. Let me look. I see you. Yes, on those that are watching on YouTube. Oh, yeah. It's more. I took down notes from the Talk on Evangelist. Thank you so much. That is a problem in most churches. They don't have anybody training. That's true. And so these are things that are important that we need to work on. We need to work on. Hey, brother Tony, brother Burl Tony. So always, I want to emphasize that again. Always train. Always train and prepare others to do the same job so you won't have interruptions in ministry. That's important. That's so important. I don't know how important I can tell you that is. That's very important that you make sure that those are trained in ministry to do those things. All right, I'm getting down to the end, and we're gonna move on. I'm gonna today do something a little different if I can, and we'll see on Facebook and on YouTube. We'll check it out. Let's look at this. Here's the last one. Then I'm gonna open up for any Q&A you might have, and then we're gonna pray. Number 6, always deal with your distractions and your interruptions head on. Always deal with your distractions and your interruptions head on. Do not, in many cases, sometimes you can, but do not delay in dealing with your distractions, because the longer you're distracted, the more problems you may have. This is why in most states, they have got laws. They did it in Georgia, and I was like, oh, well, we got, you can't text and drive. And we shouldn't be texting and driving anyway, but you can't text and drive in Georgia. So I know you can't do it in other places. You can't even have your phone to your ear, but I still see people with their phone all the time. You can't have your phone to your ear. It's not even supposed to be touching your body, actually. So you're supposed to have it on one of those little things. But, when they came out with the law, I had a little problem with it because I thought they didn't go far enough. If you're going to go that far, we shouldn't eat and drive. You shouldn't read and drive, the paper and drive. You shouldn't do a lot of stuff. You shouldn't change the CD player and drive. There's a lot of stuff you shouldn't do because all of it causes distractions. You shouldn't be driving and talking to the baby in the back seat. That's a distraction. All that is a distraction. So you can end up hitting somebody or having a wreck because you're distracted and stuff. So you've got to deal with, let's just deal with the fact that you got to deal with it head on, because the longer you're distracted, if you keep being distracted, then something's going to happen. And watch this. This is important. While you're distracted, sometimes others can slip in and cause you problems, because if you were focused and you were not distracted, they never would have been able to get in there like that. They got in because you and I were distracted. Sometimes when things happen in ministries and churches, sometimes it's our fault because we got distracted and we allowed other things to distract us. And it's almost like when we used to steal stuff when we were little. I know some of you never stole, but when they would go in the store, and they still do this today, if you look at the news, they'll get the salesman or the salesperson, they'll get their attention and get them distracted on something, get their focus on something, and they'll go behind the scene and steal something and then give the signal, and all of them go out the door together. They didn't buy anything, they stole it. Sometimes in churches and ministries, if we're not careful, we can be so distracted on one thing that we lose the focus, and others can come in. Wolves can come in among the sheep and damage them and steal them and do those things because we were distracted and we were not focused. And so this is important for us to do that. Yes, we're all replaceable. Train others, especially the next generation. We got to train somebody to do what we do, and it's important. And so we won't have interruptions. Because even as a pastor, what if you had to have surgery and got sick, and you didn't have anybody there to really? There's a difference between somebody preaching and somebody really handling administrative duties or handling things. What if you didn't have that in place? It could cause a big interruption in ministry. So we've got to work on doing that and doing a better job. So we got to deal with distractions, and then you got to deal with interruptions head on. Because I'm telling you, if you don't deal with interruptions, interruptions can shut you down. Interruptions can stop everything that's going on. You can end up shut down for a minute if you don't deal with interruptions head on. You got to deal with interruptions as they take place, as they happen. You got, sometimes that's why when they got interruptions on television and stuff, in games and stuff, they do everything to get that fixed right then, because they're losing revenue. So they got to fix it, because it's important for them to get things done and get things in place. And so we got to learn to deal with interruptions head on. You can't delay dealing with some things like that. You got to deal with those right then. You got to deal with it as it goes, and as things are happening, you've got to deal with that. And so I want to say to you that that's important for us to do. Well, I pray and trust. I'm just about done, but I want us again. Let me just give a quick overview of what we've talked about, in case somebody just got here late, so you can deal with these things. And I pray that y'all would share this with somebody again. And if you want to see the replay, you can look at it on Facebook or YouTube. If not, go to dlmartin.org. I've got some pins I'm going to be giving out eventually. Got all that information on there. dlmartin.org. That's my website. We're streaming live there right now, and you can always go and look at it also on the website. All right. So here's what we talked about, to just give you a quick overview of it, and that is, we deal with how to avoid distractions and interruptions, and we dealt with the reality that distractions and interruptions will happen. You're not going to totally avoid them. They're going to come. You just got to know how to deal with them when they get there. Distractions will come. So you've got to know, number one, you got to know your calling and your assignment. If you know that, you're going to be good. You got to know that. Number two, you have to stay focused on what you should be doing. Stop worrying about what somebody else is doing down the assembly line. You worried about if you're supposed to be putting the tire on the car, put the tire on the car, and stop worrying about those that's putting the windshield wipers on. That's not your place. It's not your job. Stay focused on what you're supposed to be doing. Stop looking on the other side of the fence. It looks green over there, but you don't know, even though their grass is green, you don't know what they had to do to prepare and what they had to struggle with to get it to be green. Let me throw this in while we're doing that. Where I live at, for years, we could not, our grass would not grow. It wouldn't grow in the front yard at all. And one day, Lady Martin went and did some research and stuff, and she came and did some stuff to the yard and put some seed down and did some other stuff. And I tell you, when she got through, from what she had saw, our grass started growing, and we've got a pretty big yard. And when you got to cut it, we got somebody to cut it now, thank God. But when you have to cut it, man, it could take about 40, 50 minutes to an hour to cut just the front yard. We're not even talking about the back. The back we never had problems with. But that front yard, she got that grass to growing. I almost sort of wish she had left it where it was, but she got it growing, and now we've got the green. So stop looking on the other side of the fence trying to see, because you don't know what's prepared over there. Do what you're supposed to do. Then number 4 was to stop letting interruptions stop you from doing ministry. If you got interruptions, do ministry anyhow. Keep going with ministry and do ministry. Number 5, always train to prepare others to do the same job that someone else is doing. Someone said train the next generation. Always train somebody else to do, just in case you've got interruptions. People leave ministry, and sometimes they take stuff with them, and you don't even know how to get back into stuff. Sometimes you don't even know how to get back into your own social media accounts at your church to post stuff. You got to understand, you need to be able to train others to do some stuff, train them to set up some stuff, train them to do it. And then always, number 6 was always to deal with distractions and interruptions head on. And if you do that, I believe the Lord will bless us. Let me see. Someone on YouTube asked more. What happens if you're not there on a Sunday morning? Well, I do probably what most pastors don't do. Every now and then I may not do it, but most of the time my members know if I'm out on a Sunday morning. If I'm preaching somewhere else, if I'm out of town, they know I'm not going to be there. I'll tell them ahead of time, I won't be here Sunday. I won't be here next Sunday, but I need every one of you to be in place. Sometimes I invite, a guest speaker, but then most of the times I'll use those that are in-house, and they sort of know because we've talked about it, they've done it, we've trained, so they know how to do the same thing that I would do: preach, take the offering, minister to people, everything. And most of the times we actually stream when I'm out. Sometimes we may not because we just may not do it. But most of the times when I'm out, we're streaming. I remember one time I was on my way me and one of my deacons drove to South Carolina. We were on our way down there to do, I was there to preach for one of our former elders. He's pastoring down there. So we drove down, and Lady Martin was speaking, and I was able to control the stream in my car. Matter of fact, I was able to watch the whole entire service in my car while we was going down the highway. And when she got through ministering, I was able to cut the stream from my phone. But now what I'm saying to you is you've got to have where you can, put it in place that when you're out, that other people can do it and you won't be interrupted. So when I leave and I'm out of town, I don't have interruption in service. Service flows, even in Bible study. Service flows the same way, and nothing falls short. And I'm telling you, nothing falls short, including money. Offerings, nothing falls short because we train others to do it. That's one of the keys that we must work on more in church and in ministry, is preparing and training others to do what we do. Put them up to do it, put them up to pray, put them up to take the offering, all those things they got to train, and you got to prepare them to do it so you won't have interruptions. Hey, Sister Young, thank you. Well, let me open it up. Anybody got any questions, something if I can help you with, I'm going to take maybe just a few more minutes, and then I'm going to get off of here. If there's anyone that have any questions, just shoot them to me now here on the stream, and I'll try my best to address it in any way I can on today. And so, again, those that are watching on YouTube, thank you. I see you. Then those that are here on Facebook, got some on Periscope. I don't think I have it set up to monitor Periscope today, but we do have it. And so I want you to do that. If there are any questions, I want you to shoot them to me now. And when I see them pop up on the screen, or see them pop up here, I will definitely answer those questions and do the best I can as we deal with how to avoid distractions and how to avoid interruptions, a complete shutdown. Those of you that are in ministry, working in ministry, you may want to do that. So let's good. I see you, Pastor Harris. How you doing? Any questions before we pray? Any questions? We're going to just share with you and anything. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, God bless you. All right. We're going to pray, and then I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Those of you that have commented, those of you, please do me a favor and share this with your followers. Share it with somebody on Facebook. Share it with somebody with YouTube. Those of you on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel, and then hit the notification bell that anytime I'm live, you'll be able to see us. Hey, Bro Harris. Then also here on Facebook, that whenever we come live on Wednesday to talk ministry, you'll be able to be a part of what we're doing here. All right, let's pray. I'm going to pray, and then we're going to let you go. thank you again for joining me on today. I appreciate you being here. Father, we thank you and we praise you today, God, as we have done that you've assigned us to do as we're talking ministry. We pray that you would bless those that are watching, those that will watch. We pray that you would bless ministries. God, those that are doing ministry, God, those that are doing that you've assigned them to do and called them to do. I pray that you would bless them. I pray that you would touch them in the name of Jesus. Help them to stay focused. Help them, to God, to stay true to the calling and the assignment that you have on their lives. God, help us not to be interrupted. Help us to be able to deal with interruptions, God, that we will continue to do ministry. Help us to stay focused on that you've called us to, not to be distracted by those over and down the way. And help us not to climb the fence just to see what others are doing, but help us, God, to do that you've called us to do. You've called us. You've anointed us. You've called us to do it. And we know that you've called us for a purpose and for a reason. And so, God, help us as we complete this year to stay focused in a way, God, that at the end of the year, we can look back and say we've done what God has called us to do this year. I pray for pastors. I pray for evangelists. I pray for teachers. I pray for the apostles, the prophets. I pray for those, God, that are doing street ministry. I pray for those that are going into the convalescent homes. I pray, God, that you would help us to stay focused. Help us to avoid, God, those things that will cause us to be distracted. We give you praise and we give you glory and we give you honor for it in Jesus' name. Thank God. Amen. Well, I pray and trust that you are blessed. I pray and trust that you got something out of this. Somebody asked a question here. Sister Moore, do you, as a pastor, rebuke people in front of the church or after church? Well, I'll tell you how I deal with that sometimes. There are times that if someone is acting totally out of order. I've had some people to come sometimes that were acting just, when I say out of order, while I'm preaching, they just talking out loud. In those cases, you have to know me. I'm from the old school. I would rebuke them openly. I said, now, I'm preaching. You need to be quiet while I'm preaching. And, most of the time that solved that. But now when I'm dealing with the church, as a pastor, sometimes I learned this from one of my mentors. Sometimes what I do is, if I need to address the church on certain matters, what I will do is I will dismiss the visitors after church. After I dismiss church, I dismiss the visitors, but I ask the members to stay, and I have a closed door meeting with the members on things I need to talk to them about. So that's one way that I do it. I don't always, because some things are not, they're not for visitors. You don't, it's not, it's in-house, and some things are privy to members. It's just for members. It's not for visitors. So I'll dismiss the visitors and just deal with the members. I don't say, well, the visitors can stay, and I go to rebuking the whole church, everybody, and people in front. No, I don't do that. Sometimes you don't have to always do it. Open rebuke is better than secret love, and I got that. But there's sometimes you have to use wisdom in how to do certain things. There's sometimes if they're doing something that I don't like in church, as far as if they're singing something I don't appreciate or whatever, I don't get up and say, y'all just I don't understand that. And I know there are others that have done it and do it. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just telling you what I do. I may get them and call a meeting after church and say, now, I don't want y'all to do that particular thing again. Please don't do that again or do that. And so that's how I deal with them, because I think it's important for us to have wisdom in how we do some things when we're dealing with members and dealing with church. I pray and trust that answered your question a little bit. And that was from YouTube. That question was asked on YouTube. Any more questions as we're getting ready to get out here? Any more questions? I'm here and free to answer. I have a little Q&A going on here, and I've got I'm gonna take about 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna get out of here. So if you got any questions, this is the time to ask them. If not, we're going to get out of here. But I want you to understand that we are excited about this platform. I want to thank Bishop Quincy Lavelle Coswell. He's encouraged me. He said, we need this, and I want you to keep doing it. And so I appreciate God using those that are encouraging me to keep doing this, and those that reach out to me, that email me and say, Pastor Martin, you're helping us. Those that inbox me, thank you so much. And I pray that you get some out of this. I pray that it helps you and to do the things that you need to do. I pray that it really does help you in these areas, and it's a blessing. And so keep joining me, keep pushing and helping me. I've got some exciting news that I'm going to be sharing. I'm working on it, be sharing with the church, and I'll probably be sharing it with you next week. And so I know it'll bless you, and so it's blessing us. God is moving for us. We're on the move with Talking Ministry. There are those that I've had those that say, well, Pastor Martin, we would love to have you to come and share with our ministers, our ministry, and share with our staff of ministers and stuff about ministry. I would love to do it. All you've got to do is email me at rrcdmartin@gmail.com. I'm going to put that up at the end. Just email me, or you can inbox me. And if you do that, I would be more than happy to come and be a part of that and to share with you. Or you can go, I'll put it on my website where you can inquire about me coming on dlmartin.org. That's dlmartin.org. I'm going to make sure that's on the website so you can do that. So if you want me to come, no matter where it is, in state, out of state, I would love to come and share with you and be a part of what is going on, and share with your ministers, those that are getting started, those that have been there a while, those that you just want to encourage, and those that you want to share some vital information about ministry. I would be happy to do it. I'm open to it. I'm available for it. Let's make it happen. Let's let it be done. All right. The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you. Thank you again so much for joining me today. I'm grateful for you being here. Thank you so much once again for being a part of this live today. Let's Talk Ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin. Don't forget, share it with somebody. Please share this. Please share it. Please share it. And I know if you share it, it's going to bless somebody. I look forward again on next Wednesday to doing and sharing with you as we talk ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin. May God bless you, and may all God's best be yours.
dlmartin.org or email us at rrcdmartin@gmail.com. Thanks for joining Pastor Martin. Visit us at www.dlmartin.org or email us at rrcdmartin@gmail.com.